Welcome back to the channel, boys. Fabloonski's coming at your neck with this Firestorm Pyromancer build. Now, as you can already tell, we're going to be using the Firestorm tree as the Pyromancer because you can just absolutely set everything on fire and do massive amounts of damage with it. But also you can debuff the enemy a lot. And I did the math, and the way I have my mod set up and the way I have some of my skills set up, I'm able to get a 80% debuff, potentially an 80% debuff on an enemy. So let's go ahead and break it down. So I'm not going to go over every single node I have in the skill tree. I'm just going to go over some of the major ones. Of course, we got a skill cooldown reduction right here and right here as well, warm up. And we also got wildfire, so it's an additional 10%. We also have meltdown. We have two nodes of that. So burned, afflicted on enemies deal 20% more damage. So I have two of them, so that's 40% more damage that my burn causes. Now here's one of the major ones: extinction, increased damage by 20% against enemies below 30% health. So pretty much as long as they're pretty low on health, you do an extra 20% damage on top of the already burning effect and every other thing I have on my build and my class. Every time I activate a skill, I get 20% weapon damage buff for 7 seconds. It's any skill, and I have pretty good ability spam with this build, so pretty much I can always have 20% extra weapon damage. Now this one doesn't really matter. You can kind of swap this one out for distant flame, or if you want to have more armor, anomalous lava. But the one I have right now is distant flame. Increase your anomaly power by 2.5% for each magma golem class node. I have every single one of them. These five right here, I have every single one of them unlocked. So I get 12.5 if I'm doing the math correctly. 2.5, 5, 7.5, 10, 12.5. If my math is wrong, let me know, but it should be right. An extra 12.5% anomaly power. Now, fuel for the embers is how I'm going to be able to keep myself alive. Double skill leech when under 30% of max health. Now I have two nodes, increase skill leech by 6%, and then another one, increase skill leech by 6%. So now I'm up to 12% skill leech, and then I believe some of my weapons and I have some of the stats on my armor give me additional skill leech. So as long as I'm under 30% health, it doubles it. So that's another way I keep myself alive. Now, one of the most important nodes I have on my skill tree right now for this build is trial by fire. Enemies afflicted by burn receive 15% more damage. So the fact that I can pretty much cause more burn damage, 40% more burn damage. I get increase in weapon damage whenever I use a skill. Now burn targets receive 15% more damage, and if they're under 30% health, they take 20% more. So my burns are going to do a lot more damage. Just the damage I do in general is going to do a lot more, 50% more. Plus I have some mods that are going to increase that even more. All my burn abilities is just going to cause my enemy to take even more damage, and it's fantastic. I feel like I can just, once I use my ability, my damage just skyrockets. Another really important node is Magma Elemental. This is the last node in the Firestorm skill tree. Activating ignite skills increase your armor piercing by 45% and resistance piercing by 45%. And the main reason I did this is because of the resistance piercing. Armor piercing is good, but I feel like that only really applies to the human enemies, but resistance piercing applies to every single enemy because every single enemy has some type of resistance in this game. So just the fact that I get a pretty much 45% increase in that damage is awesome for every enemy. So we're going to touch on my skills really quickly. We're using volcanic rounds pretty much. As long as I pop this ability, my bullets do burn damage, and they do increase damage, but mainly I use it because it causes enemy to burn. It keeps me alive because if I kill them, I get health in return. Plus, this is another way to debuff the enemy. As long as I can set them on fire, they're going to take much more damage. My second ability is heatwave. Just as you can see in this little video right here, I summon a heatwave. Another way that I'm going to debuff the enemy, and plus I have a mod that also increases the damage I take whenever I use this ability. So this is a really important ability to have for this build. And then we're using eruption simply because I love this ability. I think it's so cool, and you can actually get some mods that increase the damage a lot, and it has a bigger radius, lasts longer. So this is like one of the ways I'm going to get a lot of damage on chunky targets, or if it's like there's a panic moment and I need some health, I can just pop this ability down and pretty much kills everything in its radius. I absolutely love this ability. So let's go ahead and start with our gear. We're going to start with our weapons first. Now I like my weapons to do more damage and have more, I guess, DPS and ad clear. So my primary weapon of choice is a double gun. I have ultimate storm whip. It's a tier 3 mod. Shots bring down lightning on enemy that deals 8,518 damage every 1 second. Pretty much increases the DPS of my weapon. And I also have bone shrapnel. Killing shots detonate the enemy's bones and turn them into shrapnel that deals 23,331 damage and inflicts bleed on enemies within a 5-meter radius. It increases that ad clear, and it increased my DPS. Now my other two weapons don't really matter. Now the reason I have blue weapons on as opposed to all purple weapons is because I can keep leveling up these blue weapons only for steel. Now to level up purple weapons it costs titanium, so I'm never really going to pull these weapons out. The only reason I have them is to increase my average item level. This is pretty much like your gear score. So having two blue weapons allows you to pretty much always have two weapons that are going to be your max wearable item level for only steel. So I feel like that's very valuable, and I mean I don't really pull out my secondary weapon or my pistol. I don't know if you guys do, so I figured I would just use blue items until I'm max level, then I'll start working on these two. But I don't know, in my opinion it's worth having the blue weapons here because I don't really ever pull them out, and it increases the average item level I have on, meaning you can do more harder content. It's easier to do harder content pretty much. So now we're going to jump over to our armor, and before I get into it I just want to say this build is not the most optimized. It is not a level 50 build, it is not a tier 15 build. This is just a build that I created and I've been using for the level that I'm at. Of course, if I could choose to be more min-max, like I'd have more global cooldown reduction, more status power, I also have more, I don't know, resistance, health regen, something like that, more weapon damage, maybe more weapon damage, but definitely more status power and more cooldown reduction. This build is not the most min-max. Of course there's builds that are better for the end game. Maybe this build will even scale really good for the end game. I'm not at the very end of the end game yet, but for where I am right now, this build is fantastic for that. So I just want to say that, get that out of the way, because I hate when people come in the comments talking about this build is not going to be that good, blah, blah, blah. Like, this build is just fun and it's really good for where I'm at in the game. So just take that, and not every build has to be the most min-max, most optimal build. Games are about having fun, and I always don't like to use the most meta thing because that's just how I am. I like to have fun, I like to experiment with all kinds of builds. I feel like that's what this game is made for. So I just want to get that out of the way. So now onto my headpiece. Now the two mods that I have on it are very, very important. We got Magma Coat. Eruption increases the lava damage over time by 2,832. And then we got Burnt Out. Heatwave damage. Damaged enemies take 25% more damage for 8 seconds. That right there just adds on to the debuff that I was talking about. So 25% from this mod, and of course all the other class nodes that I was talking about earlier. On my chest piece, on the mods we have here are Giga Blast, increases skills radius by 100%. So my volcano just does more damage in a wider radius. Pretty much makes it very, very good for ad clear. And then we got extra mag for volcanic rounds. The skill is effective for 1 additional mag before triggering the cooldown. So pretty much if I'm using the double gun, I can shoot all my bullets, reload, and have another mag of the volcanic round, pretty much increasing my lifesteal, because then it turns into skill leech. So I can keep myself alive if I kill them because they're burning, then I get more health from that way. It's really good to have an extra round of that. On my legs, we're using Ride the Wave. This skill can be activated for 1 more time before it goes on cooldown. So I have 2 charges of the heatwave ability, and then increase duration for eruption, increase the skill duration by 50%. Pretty much my damage lasts longer. So because of my eruption, the Magma Coat increased the lava damage over time by 2,832, and now my eruption skill lasts longer. On my gloves, we're using Debris. Eruption throws damaging debris at enemies, dealing an additional 7,011 damage. So it pretty much just increases the damage of my eruption ability. Like I was saying earlier, you can make that ability do tons and tons of damage. It's insane. And then we're also using Bullet Kindling. It's a tier 2 perk. Deal 20% more damage against enemies afflicted by burn. There you go, that is the icing on the cake for the debuffs. So now not only do they take 15% from the skill tree and all the other mods I had on, now they're taking 20% just from burning. So the heat wave ability, where was it? I think it was right here. No, it was right here. Nope, it wasn't right there either. Where is it? Right here. Burnt Out. Damage enemies take 25% more damage for 8 seconds. Burning enemies take an additional 20% more damage. And then on my skill tree, the 15% more. And then if they're under 30%, I think it's like 20% more damage. There's a lot of debuffs going on here. And on my boots, we're using Heat Leech. Increase skill leech by 10% for 10 seconds after using the skill. I want to be able to keep myself alive. I'm kind of a glass cannon with this build, so if an enemy starts to rush me, it starts to get a little chaotic. So using this ability will increase my skill leech, meaning I get more health in return. And then we got Pompeii. This skill can be activated 1 more time before triggering the cooldown. So I have 2 charges of my volcanic ability, or it's the eruption, the volcano ability where you just shoot stuff. So not only does it do more damage, has a bigger radius, now I have 2 charges of that. I have 2 charges of heat wave. So there's my ability spam. And whenever I get into a panic situation, I can use my eruption ability and kill some enemies, get some health back. Or if there's a boss coming, I can just throw both of them at the boss's feet and then use my volcanic rounds, hit them with the heat wave, debuff them, and then do tons and tons of damage. And real quick, I just want to say, I know that my fashion is hideous right now, but this gear is too good to pass up. So right now we're not focused on fashion. I mean, I guess it's okay. It's not terrible, but I hate this headpiece. I look so stupid. Wish I can turn it around to really show you, but it's like a humongous headpiece. So my fashion is not there, but I like the mods and I like the, you know, the abilities I have on. Man, the Pyromancer. When I first started playing it, honestly, I wasn't really having too much fun. I mean, it was okay. It was fun, but compared to like the Devastator, I had a lot more fun in the beginning with Devastator compared to the Pyromancer in the beginning. But once I started leveling up the Pyromancer and I unlocked all the abilities and some mods and stuff, it just really opens up. Like, there's so much you can do with the Pyromancer. You can even go along the lines of like the Ash way, like if you want to immobilize a lot of targets and be kind of like a little bit of a walking tank. But I personally like the idea of burning everything, causing these volcanic eruptions, making my guns do fire damage, and just burning everything, debuffing enemies. That's what I like the Pyromancer for. Of course, I'm going to make builds for all the Pyromancer skill trees and hybrid skill trees and stuff like that. But for right now, this build, I'm probably going to use this build all the way till I'm level 50. I'm not sure yet, but this is my favorite build I've made so far. I've tried out, you know, some Devastator builds and other Pyromancer builds, but right now I'm really loving this one. The fact that you can just nuke everything with the volcano. You have the volcanic round, so you can do extra weapon damage. There's debuffs going everywhere, and my heatwave ability is on a pretty short cooldown. Of course, like I said, if this was more min-max, I have a lot more cooldown reduction. But the way I have it right now, it's a pretty fast cooldown. So just imagine when it's more min-max at level 50, it's going to be even better. You're going to nuke everything, debuff everything. You're like the guy on your team that sits back, not necessarily sits too far back, but you're kind of not in the middle like the Trickster or the Devastator. You're debuffing enemies and doing a lot of damage, a lot of ad clear with the volcano, and then using your volcanic rounds just to do extra damage. It is fantastic feeling. Now, if there was one thing I guess I would change, or something that I should just mention, I don't know if I would change it, but like I said earlier, you are a glass cannon. There was a lot of times where I got jumped on by like a boss, a brood mother, I forget the names of all the enemies, but some of the more chunkier enemies and the boss type of enemies, I would get jumped on them and pretty much not instantly killed, but I would get really low on health, start to panic, and then the smaller enemies would start to swarm me and I would die. So you have to work around that, and you have to roll a lot, and you have to just be aware of your surroundings when enemies are going to push you, because like I said, you're a glass cannon. You're not meant to tank a lot of damage, you're meant to debuff the enemies, cause a lot of burn damage, and help with the DPS. So you just gotta watch out for that. Now, like I said, if you want to switch out one of the skill tree, I think it was called like Magma Golem or something like that, and use the other one to have more armor as opposed to more anomaly power, you can if you want to increase your tankiness. But I was just trying to go straight for damage because that's what I like to do. But honestly, it wouldn't hurt. Maybe I have to reconsider. Maybe I might have to get that armor increase because I am pretty squishy with this build. But this build does definitely fulfill the power fantasy of the Pyromancer. You are constantly burning everything, getting health in return, debuffing everything, just melting everything, causing volcano eruptions. It is awesome feeling. It looks great, and I don't even play this game on highest settings. Like, my PC just can't handle it on ultra and record at the same time. When I'm not recording, I can run it at decent settings and stuff, but in order for me to record and play, I have to put it on low. So just imagine this on a high frame rate with a ultra settings for your graphics. It must look beautiful. I can only imagine. So definitely try this build out. If you guys have a high-end PC, crank those settings up, turn your frame rate up, use this build, and you're just gonna see all this fire, all this lava going everywhere, and you're gonna love it. But if you guys like this content, please like, subscribe, and share. It truly helps me out a lot. You can also check out my other videos. Links are in the description below. I have a lot of crazy builds, so go and check that out. And you might as well follow my social media. I have a Twitter and an Instagram, both at fat_bloonskis. But with all that being said, deuces.